This program is being funded by Harza Engineering Company. Since 1920, Harza has been involved in the development of water, energy, and land resources, providing responsible solutions that improve the quality of life.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Howser, and here it is about 9:30 on a beautiful Wednesday morning. We are in Riverside County, just a little south of Hemet. That is Mount San Jacinto right over there. Palm Springs is right on the other side of that big mountain right there. And I'm standing here with Jay Malinowski from the Metropolitan Water District. And Jay, we are finally here because for actually, I think it's almost years now, we've been getting all kinds of letters and phone calls at our office at KCET wanting us to come out here and see this thing we're getting ready to see, because this program is going to be a learning experience for all of us. I think it's not really the best kept secret, but it is certainly the biggest secret going on in Southern California. And this nice peaceful area right here changes very quickly as we talk about what's happening right over here. Explain to us what all of this is, because this is unbelievable.
Well, if it's a secret, it's only because it's so far removed from the metropolitan areas of LA, Orange County, and San Diego County. But this is a very well-known project out here in Riverside County. We, Metropolitan Water District, are in the process of completing one of the largest reservoir projects under construction in the United States today. And what you're looking at here is going to be full of water in another 2 or 3 years.
Now, when you say this area we're looking at is going to be full of water, you're talking about everything that we can see from this line of trucks right here on is going to be water.
Exactly right. We're standing very close to the east end of the reservoir, and all of the construction that you see going on here is finishing work on what we call the East Dam. And if you look beyond the East Dam and you go 5 miles westerly, you and I can just barely make out what is the West Dam, way down there at the other end.
So we're talking about a reservoir that is 5 miles long.
That's right.
How wide is it going to be?
At the widest point, it's about 2 miles. The whole reservoir will have sort of an hourglass shape to it, but at its widest point, it's about 2 miles across.
And this is a huge, huge project that started when?
Well, this project actually started probably 10 or 11 years ago when we began doing survey work in the general Riverside and San Bernardino area looking for an appropriate site. This wound up to be the site, and we started construction out here about 4 or 5 years ago, and we're almost done. We're getting very close.
Well, it's an amazing, we came in by helicopter this morning and looked out and saw from the air. This is really deceiving. This is just nothing right here compared to what the size of the thing. You really get a sense of how huge this project is, and there are lots of interesting levels to it. Historical and archaeological and paleontological.
We've got it all out here. It's been an amazing project from start to end. It's just incredible how this is going to transform this part of Riverside County, number one, and number two, provide tremendous water reliability benefits to all of Southern California.
Well, it's going to be an interesting day. We've got a full day ahead of us. We're going to look at all the different aspects of this, and I think we're all in for a real treat and a real surprise. I said it was the best kept secret. I know that we kind of hear about it from time to time, but I don't think most of us really understand the magnitude and the significance of this project, and that's what we're going to find out today. So stick with us throughout this adventure as we kind of dig down and see what this project is all about. It's called the East Side Reservoir.
East Side Reservoir Project, and why don't we start at the Visitor Center where anyone can come and visit. Start there, and we'll just work our way west.
Okay, we're off. Okay, now we've come a couple of miles from where we started our adventure. The sign says, Jay, that this is the East Side Reservoir Project Visitor Center, which means that Obviously, you have visitors here. I see a school bus with, looks like the teacher's taking a nap out there. Maybe that's the bus driver.
Actually, it is the bus driver.
Howdy. And here is the visitor center itself.
We've had so much interest in this project, Huel, from day one, in fact, even before day one, that we put up this small temporary visitor center. We get somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people a week out here.
Really? That many?
Oh, it's amazing, the interest in this project. In fact, this has been such a hit that we will be making this part of a permanent structure after the reservoir is completed. Right now, though, it's open 4 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We close down on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for maintenance and whatnot. But it's a terrifically popular spot, and I'm going to take you inside and introduce you to Kathleen Springer and Max, and you've never met anyone like Max before.
Okay. Oh, boy, look. Look at this, Louis. What is this? What is this pipe?
This is actually a pipeline. This is the actual pipeline. It happened to be a scrap piece, and we put it out here so that people could get an understanding of how large the pipes are that are going to bring water into this reservoir project and out of it. This isn't the only one. There'll be several barrels of these pipes.
Let's stand in it just to give an idea of how big this thing is. This thing will be full of water flowing at a rate of speed that just constantly is bringing water in.
We get a really nice echo in here because this is a steel pipe, and we'll get some sound bouncing back and forth. But yes, when the project is done, these are the size of the pipelines that will be bringing water into the reservoir project and taking it back out again.
So there'll be more than one of these things coming in.
Oh, yes.
Lots more.
Lots more.
All right, let's go inside the visitor center and meet Max. Okay, we are inside. Howdy.
Hi.
I'm Huel Hauser.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Kathleen Springer.
You're not Max.
No, I'm not Max. No.
Where is Max?
Max is right behind me.
Oh, that's Max.
That's right.
Okay, what is the story, Jay, on Max? And then we'll let Kathleen give us the whole spiel here.
Well, Kathleen is a professional paleontologist and is in a much better situation to explain Max. But when we came out here and started this project, we knew that there was a probability that we were going to find some paleontological findings out here. So we brought on staff a number of paleontologists as well as archaeologists and others that you'll meet later. Kathleen was the paleontologist, and I think she was as surprised as anyone with regard to the finds that we saw out here.
So in other words, when you started digging this reservoir, moving all of this earth, you found some pretty amazing things.
We did, keeping in mind that this whole valley was under agriculture for decades, but a farmer only goes down 3, 4, maybe 5 feet as they irrigate and plant and reap and sow crops. When we got into the reservoir, we had to go down much deeper than that, and most of these, and Kathleen can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of these findings were found between 15 and 30 feet below the surface. So the farmers had never gotten down that deep, and we did.
Well, how big a find is this, Kathleen?
Well, this is Max, and his proper name is Mammut americanum. He's an American mastodon. So what's neat about Max, and if we can come over here. And
why are we coming over here?
Because this is Max's best side.
Oh.
This is his profile. This is his best side. What is amazing about Max, and kind of in a bigger picture about this project as well, is that we have found an extraordinary number of mastodons. Max happens to be the largest mastodon ever discovered in the entire western United States.
You're
right
kidding.
here, right here at the west end of the project. When you get down there, you'll see where they're building the dam. Where the dam is now is where Max was discovered, about 17 feet below the original surface of the valley.
Now, did we know that dinosaurs of this size were found here?
Well, these are all Ice Age mammals.
Oh,
These are all
mammals. These aren't dinosaurs.
These are all, when you think about the Ice Age, you think about La Brea. All the animals that were found at La Brea are things like mammoths and mastodons and extinct horses, camels, bison. So this is the kind of assemblage that we're finding.
Do we have a picture of what Max would have looked like fully clothed? Oh, there he is. Oh, right up here. Oh, wow.
And what is amazing is that at La Brea, the largest mastodons are about 6 to 7 feet high. Max, based on measurements of his limb bones, he would have been about 11.5 feet high.
Wow.
So he is the largest one that's ever been documented in California and probably the West.
Now, you've got some other bones over here. Are these all part of Max? Or?
No, these aren't parts of Max. These are just some of the different animals that we've been
Let me
finding.
get my sunglasses out. They were not dug up from some other place.
This is a toe bone of a mammoth. It's one toe bone. It's bigger than your toe.
Wow.
One digit. And that was from a mammoth that was found very recently at the west end of the valley when we had a very hot period of time where we found about mammoths in about 3 weeks.
Really?
3 mammoths were discovered. And this is a mammoth tooth.
That's a tooth.
One tooth of a mammoth.
Now, is this the way you found it, basically?
Pretty much. This thing came out of the ground pretty much like it is. And this is the surface that they ground grass with. So a mammoth is an elephant, very similar to a modern Asian elephant especially. The mastodons, however, were more primitive elephants. There's nothing alive today that's anything
When
like
would
a
they
mastodon.
have been here?
We have dates back as far as about 41,500 years. We also have radiocarbon dates at about 13,000 years. And we do have fossils as shallow as 2 feet below the surface and as deep as
Really?
almost 100 feet.
So this was really, oh, wait a minute, this is
That's
another,
a mastodon tooth.
another
So I
tooth.
brought a tooth of each of these elephants so you could see the difference. Mammoth, mastodon.
Ah.
These guys ate trees and shrubs, and they're called browsers. These guys were grass eaters, and so they have very
So they
different
didn't have
tooth
to
morphology.
have the same kind of teeth. And this is a,
That's a horn core of a bison. Now, when you think about bison today, if you've seen a bison,
sure, they're
you
not
know,
this, the horns
the
aren't this
fossil
big.
bison are remarkable. We have some bison where the hump would have been about 8 feet high. So when you think about bison being a large animal, these were much larger.
Yes.
These are much larger, the fossil relatives of the modern bison.
So you found a little bit of everything in here.
Yeah, we have a horse here. This is an extinct horse, lower jaw. A horse, lower jaw. And we have many horses. We also have extinct camel. So when you kind of think about what life was like, think about camels and elephants cruising around in Southern California. And the only representation of this size in all of California is La Brea because they're the standard of reference. So that's
At the
why,
tar pits.
at the
And
tar
they were
pits.
preserved in the tar pits because of the tar.
Yeah, it's an entrapment. This is a more, when you see this valley and you get a shot of it, you'll see it's this long valley. The ancient environment was water, streams. We have evidence of a lake. How ironic. there's gonna be a big lake. But what happened here is that these animals basically roamed around the Dominagoni and Diamond Valleys and all of the San Jacinto Valley, and they lived and died in this area.
Wow,
So
this
there's-
is very exciting, Jay.
This was exciting, and I think when we talked earlier about this being a best-kept secret, I think when a lot of people really got interested in this project is when
Yeah.
Kathleen and her people found some of this material. These have received nationwide publicity.
Yeah, so you've probably had people coming here from all over the world to see this already and to kind of do some digging and get everything out before the water comes in.
Well, my team of paleontologists, we're the ones that are under contract with Metropolitan to do the work during the excavation and the curation and beyond. So we're doing the analysis on these things, figuring out what they are. When these things come out of the ground, they're in giant plaster jackets filled with dirt. They get brought back to the museum, and in the laboratory, we clean them up and end up looking like this.
Now, is that one of
That's one tusk.
that's one of
One of
Max?
Max's tusks. There's a bit of his other tusk that was sheared off, and some of these flat objects are cervical vertebra, which are your neck vertebra. We have some rib bones. Some of these really long bones are the rib bones, but his skull and lower jaw, those are remarkable objects. Those are beautifully preserved specimens, and that's one of the things that is so exciting about this project. All of the fossils are in fabulous condition.
So for a paleontologist, you're in heaven
I'm
out
a
here,
happy
aren't you?
camper. Yes, yes. It's an extraordinary project. This assemblage of animals and plants and what it's going to tell us about what life was like regionally in Southern California it's a first.
Now, isn't this interesting? Because if you weren't doing all of this excavation, if you weren't putting this reservoir in here, you probably wouldn't you wouldn't have known where to look. You certainly wouldn't have gone down 20 or 30 feet.
No, we had an inkling there would be fossils here, but no paleontologist can get a grant big enough to move 110 million cubic yards of dirt. So it's a sampling thing, you know. They dug this big hole, and this entire valley floor is underlain by these Pleistocene sediments with these animals in them.
So
So
this
it's
is
amazing.
just another benefit of that kind of an unexpected benefit that the reservoir is bringing all of.
The quality of the fossils and the findings really was unexpected, and it probably goes beyond benefit. I think it's a treasure.
Yeah. And a treasure that's going to be maintained because in your permanent visitor center, all of this will be on display for people to come and see.
That's correct. This and more.
Okay, now the fun begins. We have moved just a little ways from the museum into the classroom. I'm standing with Geraldine
Capus.
And Geraldine, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on in here. Tell us what it is that we are seeing. These are the kids from the school bus out front.
Yeah, these students are from Thompson Middle School in Marietta, and what they are doing right now is they're doing an archaeological dig. We have real artifacts in each of these boxes. There's 16 artifacts. Not only are they going to uncover them, map them, then they're going to take them, all that information they get, they're going to find out what they have to identify them, and then back at school tomorrow, they're going to take the information they gathered today, and they're going to figure out what happened at this valley over the years by the type of artifacts they find.
So basically they're digging in there, just like a real archaeologist would do.
Right. Exact same tools that the archaeologist has used. His partner, Jaron, over here, he's recording for him, just like the partners do out in the field.
I gotcha. So we have teams going here.
What kind of stuff are you guys finding?
Like bones and stones.
What have you found?
First we found bones.
Hold that up so Louis can get a good picture of it. I gotcha. Now, how do you look for bones? How do you do it?
Let me just bear this real fast. Like if it was like underground like this, you kind of start scraping.
Look at this, Louis. You scrape it with your hands?
Yeah, first you'd scrape it, and when you found it, you'd brush off the sand, and then you'd record it like to.
Then your partner records it.
Yeah, and then
you take it out,
and we see what number it was, just M5,
and you put it over here.
We put it in 5.
Wow.
I think he's going to be a paleontologist when he grows up.
Good job. How many kids come through this program?
This year we've ran close to 3,000 students through our program.
Really? From?
They come, well, we've had students from as far away as Van Nuys, Encino, Victorville. We've had them all the way from down in San Diego.
And what age group?
Our formal program is 6th grade, and we have run kindergartners through 8th grade out here also.
What have you all found over here?
Rocks and 2 types of rocks.
You found what now?
2 types of rocks in the southwest corner.
I got you.
Southern western and the southern eastern.
Now, have you ever done any archaeology before?
No.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what have you all found?
We have found a shoe I covered in. We've got some cans, and we found a glass. This is an actual glass on the site. Because Jacqueline showed us that this was an actual thing they found on the site because this number right here. And it's
so this is part of the human history
yeah.
from the reservoir site.
Yes. They said it's an actual piece.
Now, you sound like you're pretty interested in archaeology.
Yeah, I like to study history, especially prehistory, like man and arrowheads and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, had you ever seen anything as big as Max in there? That big...
No. I haven't seen anything as big as Max, man. That scared me when I walked in.
No, it didn't scare you, but it's kind of interesting to think of something that big walking right around here in Riverside County.
Be scared if that thing came around a corner in a dark alley. You'd be like, whoa.
You know, it's amazing. And even when I talk with the chaperones ahead of time, I say, how many of you guys looked for arrowheads as a kid? And they, most of them did. I says, now you're going to learn to look for what we should have been looking for in the areas instead of just the arrowheads.
Yeah.
And that's what these kids are learning here. And they really go away appreciating those things. And you watch them, they are so careful.
Yeah.
They are so careful.
Well, now, is this part of an ongoing program that the Metropolitan Water District has going here?
The formal program's been running for 4 years.
Really?
And
Since the project started?
Since the project started, and it's going to keep growing, and it changes as the project changes. And they're planning on keeping it going even after the project's completed. It's so valuable to the teachers in this area, and it's just a wonderful way of exposing our kids to what's going on.
Yeah. Now we're back. Well, we're actually on the other side of the East Dam.
You're exactly.
There's 2 dams.
You're right. If we had water in this reservoir, you and I would be very wet right now.
In fact, all of this area out here is going to be underwater very soon.
That's correct. You can see a slight road or a lighter colored material sort of halfway up the mountains there, and that's essentially the high water mark for the reservoir. So everything that you see here will be water.
And how long will it take to fill all of this? This is a huge area.
Well, it depends on what kind of hydrology is going on in the state, Huel, how wet it is on the Colorado watershed, how wet it is in the State Water Project watershed. We're projecting right now that it'll take between 2 and 4 years to fill it.
Just to fill this big old hole up. We just met a new friend here. Your name is?
Jamie Dean.
And you work as part of this project. What's your job down here?
I'm the field clerk for the Metropolitan East Dam Field Office.
What is the, wait a minute, the what?
Field clerk.
For the?
Metropolitan Field Office for the East Dam.
I got you. Okay, it sounded very technical there.
Oh, it is.
But you're one of many, many people who came here just for this project.
Yes, absolutely.
Had you ever, I mean, you literally moved here from somewhere else?
From
Bought a house here?
Well, renting.
Really?
Yes.
So this is a big thing and a long-term thing.
Yes, I've been here for almost 3 years now.
Did you know anything about the East Side Reservoir project before you came up here?
Heard about it, knew it was coming up,
Yeah.
but no, I didn't expect all this.
Now, when you say all this, what do you mean?
Look at it, it's big.
Yeah.
It's real big. I'm sure even you reading about it, once you saw it, it's bigger than you can even think of, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think the people working on it know how significant it really is, or is this just a job?
Yes, they do. I think the people working here do know how significant it is. It's getting other people to come see that it really is. It's very, very, very big and significant.
Now, your job is that of a clerk, so you're not actually out here building the dams,
No,
are
I'm
you?
not. No, I'm not, but I make sure that everybody has everything they need to do it.
Good. And when they put the water in the reservoir,
Yes.
you're going to have the same sense of pride as everybody
you bet
else,
I
aren't
am.
you?
I sure am. You bet. I am, for
You're
sure.
going to be here to watch it fill up?
Yeah. Yep, that or learn to swim real quick.
Okay, we're moving. You can see the face of the East Dam over there. And Jay, now we're down where the water is actually going to be.
This is the very bottom of the reservoir, Huel, and we're at a place here that we've done a little pre-planning. The most important component of this reservoir is water supply. There's no doubt about that. But a very large component is recreation. Part of that is fishing, and we've thought way ahead by creating this mini lake here. I mean, this is nowhere near the size that the reservoir is going to be. We created this mini lake, and we're pre-stocking this in conjunction with California Department of Fish and Game. So this is a prime fishing area right now, but you can't come here.
All right, but you will be able to come here. This reservoir is going to be big for fishing and boating.
That's correct. This is going to be a major destination spot, I think, for lots of Californians to do just about any kind of recreation that you can think of doing. It'll be available here.
All right, and here's our guy, Mike.
How you doing?
From California Department of Fish and Game. You're the fish guy here.
I'm the fisheries biologist for the project.
You're the guy who's making all those fishermen get all excited about coming out here to fish in a couple of years.
That's it. We have a lot of people that are really interested and want to come out right now.
Now, how many fish do you think you've got in this little pond right here now?
What we've originally stocked was only 217 largemouth bass. We stocked 1,500 northern bluegill, 25,000 southeastern bluegill, and about 250 red ear sunfish.
All right here?
That's right here. Right now, there's probably close to, I'd say 50,000 fingerling largemouth bass in the reservoir. They've reproduced this year.
So if you were to put your line in right now, you'd be sure to catch something.
No, you probably wouldn't catch anything because everything's
they're
about
just real little. Okay.
They're about 2 inches long right
but
now.
I thought you had a big one over here to
I've
show
got
us.
one of the original brood stock that came in. All these fish came out of Lake Hodges.
And here's your assistant.
My
This is
assistant,
his job, is to
John
hand
Hannigan.
you the fish.
That's it.
Good job, John. Oh my gosh.
This is one of our larger bass that we have in the reservoir. You can see it's in good shape. These came out of Lake Hodges. We worked with San Diego City Lakes. We've tested these things genetically. They're more or less pure Florida largemouth bass.
So this is what the offspring are in here?
Yes.
From these?
From these 217 fish, we probably have over 100,000 fry in here right now.
Now, are you going to put this in there?
Yes, it's going back in the water.
How many big ones like this are in there?
217.
So you could catch some big ones in there if you...
This is actually, there's fish over 5 pounds in the in the rearing pond.
Because you know, Louis is a big fisherman.
Uh-oh.
And he's beginning to shake already just looking at this. Maybe during our lunch hour, Jay, we could let Louis do a little fishing in here. Let's put this in. Boy, it seems
Let
a
me stick
shame.
it on this side over this way. Just it's a shade deeper over this way.
I got you. There he goes. Oh, boy. There he goes. He's going to join 217 others that are already out here.
That's it. Yeah, we've got those out here, and the bluegills and red ears that we have are also reproducing.
That's assuming 217, assuming some of these 1,800 construction workers around here hadn't done the same thing Louis is thinking about doing now.
We haven't done that. We've made sure nobody's fished the reservoir. These are some of the bluegills that we have out here. These fish were purchased from a supplier in the Central Valley, Willow Creek Fisheries. These are the northern strain that we brought in, as well as the southeastern.
Well, let's put them in. Let's don't keep them out of water very long.
Nah, these things. That's the one nice thing about these things. They're fairly tough fish.
And here they go. And how many of those are there out here already?
There's about 1,500 of the adult bluegills and about 25,000 of the fingerling.
Now this has got to be exciting for you to provide this kind of fishing for thousands of people who are going to be able to take advantage of this.
It's extremely exciting. You got to keep in mind this has never been tried. Most reservoirs, when you deal with them, you get whatever the river that's being dammed is blocked up brings you. So we're looking at, a project where we have the ability to control what's in it to a large degree. The district's been really great about working with me to create habitat out here. We're doing all kinds of brush pile projects and pipes for catfish.
So when the water is put in, you're going to have habitat already built for them all around the bottom.
Right. It's a lot cheaper to do it now than it is to try and do it when there's water here. Just the logistics of working on water is difficult.
And since this reservoir had no water around it anyway, there were no rivers or lakes or anything here to start with, you're starting from scratch.
Exactly. And it's never been tried in the U.S. where you've actually been able to go in and do all the habitat and do all the fish stuff from scratch.
And I guess how are the fish going to get into the reservoir itself?
Well, we're standing in the bottom of the reservoir. As the reservoir begins to fill up, this body of water right here simply overflows into the reservoir itself.
So the fish just kind of come up and go out.
That's exactly right. They're home.
That's correct. The only other thing too is what we'll do as soon as they start filling, because it could be several months before the reservoir actually, when they start filling, reaches this point, we will start transferring fish out of the pond into the new portion of the reservoir.
Yeah.
So we have additional space and we can actually have more fish in the reservoir by the time they're ready to start filling.
Boy, you can't get enough fish in here, can you?
No,
I man's
can't.
Going crazy here.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we have the stocking program that's going to be going on more or less continuously for several years, probably for 5 or 10 years, just to try and get the population up to where it's really good for the fishermen. But when they're ready to open it, there will be fish here for fishermen to catch.
So this whole area out here is going to be a huge, big fisherman's paradise out here.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, most of the fishing for the bass and bluegill will be up on the shorelines, but the center portion will probably be great for trout.
So there'll be boats how many feet above us?
Well, we'll be about 180, 200 feet above us.
In a boat with a line,
right,
catching the very fish that you just put in there.
Hopefully. I would think you're going to see them more on the shoreline. But
all right. Well, there'll be some boaters out here.
There are going to be people out here, yeah. That's
all right. Good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll be back in a couple of years to throw in our lines and see what we get.
Let's hope you do.
This, Jay, is a big, well, I'm not sure what it is, but it looks important. What are we looking at here?
Well, this is the most important operational feature of the reservoir itself. It's called an inlet-outlet structure. And through the 18 tiers that you can see, the small, they look small from here, but they're really large enough to walk through. Through the holes that you see there, we can put water into the reservoir and take water out of the reservoir.
Okay, so this is the way the water is going to come in, and this is the way the water is going to go out to our homes all over Southern California.
That's exactly right. And there's several interesting features about it. Number one, there are 9 tiers that you can see there. If you start at the bottom and count up, there are 9. And what that gives us the flexibility to do is to draw water out of the reservoir from any one of those elevations, because like any other lake, the water quality differs from season to season, even month to month. So we will draw water for people to use from that level that is the best water quality at that time.
And each one of those holes Remember at the visitor center when we stood inside that pipe?
Those are the same size pipes.
Each one of those is the same size as that huge pipe we were standing in.
That's correct. When we're putting water into this reservoir, there's enough water coming through that structure to fill a backyard swimming pool in 1 second.
Oh my God.
So it's a great deal of water that we're going to be able to get in here and get out of here.
And you just cut that right out of the side of the mountain. Look at all that stone over there.
Because of the earthquake problem here in Southern California, this is somewhat unique. What we did was we cut the hill back to bedrock. And so the gray and orange discolored areas you see there is actually bedrock. We then built the tower into the bedrock and then anchored the tower itself back into the bedrock. Now, in most reservoirs, you see a single tower out in the middle of the reservoir, and that's where you get the water. That tower can move like that during an earthquake. In this particular case, that tower is now a physical part of the mountain, and it's not going anywhere.
This is a huge engineering feat that you all are undertaking over here. This is our first chance to see the West Dam. This is 5 miles from where we started down there on the East Dam.
Well, at this point, we're about 4 miles from the East Dam because we're still about a mile away from the West Dam itself. But you're right, we are working our way to the West Dam, and that's it right there. You can see it building.
Now, is that about as high as it's going to be?
If you look to our left, to the end of the reservoir, you can see a little white patch there, and the very top of that white patch will be the top of the reservoir.
So it's going to be even higher than it is now.
We have another 40 feet or so to go on the West Dam.
And again, all of this is going to be covered.
You and I are standing in about 140 feet of water right now.
Jay, earlier in the day, we met Big Max, the mastodon, and we looked at the mammoth bones and all of that. We talked about the big animals that used to live right out here.
Well, that was the paleontological end of things. There's also an archaeological end of things, which relates to human habitation here in the valley. And what I want to do is introduce you to Melinda Horn, who's going to tell you about some of the early settlers in this very valley.
So there are levels to this. There's the big old furry animals.
Right. And then humans actually came into the valley about 8,000 years ago. Prehistoric Native Americans lived in the valley pretty continuously all the way up to about 200 years ago. And about 1880, the non-Indian settlers moved into the valley.
And I assume this is an example.
This is an example of an early settlement in the valley. It dates to 1880. It's an adobe structure, 2-room adobe structure. It was built by John Nicholson, who was a Scottish immigrant into the United States. And the building's actually constructed in the cottage style of Scotland. 2 rooms, 2 adobe rooms with a fireplace in each room. But unknowingly, he's probably never had the fireplaces running at both times here in Southern California. He didn't need that much heat.
Now, how did you find out all of this? This is just a little house sitting out here.
That's right. Well, we do archival research. Part of archaeology and historical archaeology is going back, looking at historic maps, going back through land assessors' records, and just, tracing it all the way back from the very beginning.
And this is the original adobe wall that was, oh boy.
Adobe brick, you can see the
that
adobe
was built
brick.
in
1880. You can see the pieces of the straw binding and the rock. And he was also a stonemason, and there's some very beautiful examples of his masonry. You can see the foundation
look at this.
Beautifully built.
Now, why do you study all of this if it's going to end up being underwater?
Well, cultural resources are truly non-renewable resources. Once they're gone forever. They're not like biological resources where you can set aside a reserve and have a population come back. There's federal laws and state laws in California that protect cultural resources. And before any development occurs, an archaeologist is usually hired to do an archaeological survey, to identify and document the cultural resources and make an assessment of their significance. And if they are determined to be significant, then we go into phase 2 testing and evaluation. And in some instances, the site has so many data potentials, so much research potential, that we recommend going one step further to phase 3 data recovery.
Well, I don't know about phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3. All I know is that this is a beautiful
example of early Southern California architecture.
And you've got the tree out here, and you can just kind of see them going back in time, just kind of figure what it would have been like for them to sit out here on their front porch, look out through these old trees, out across the valley floor.
That's right. It's a beautiful location. We're situated here in a mountain front embayment, so we've got protection from the east and west and from the south. Beautiful view of the valley floor to the north.
So they knew what they were doing when they built their little house
They
here.
sure did. They picked one of the nicest spots in the valley.
Were they ranchers?
They were ranchers. The Nicholsons lived here from 1880 to about 1912. And then the Rawson family from Rawson Canyon used this area for an apiary. They had quite a bee industry going till about 1940s, and then the Zieglers moved in, and the Zieglers did a lot of maintenance around the area. They rebuilt the barn.
You know everything about this place. This is wonderful. Well, Jay, this is a part of the reservoir story, isn't it?
It's a wonderful part of history, and we really would have loved to have been able to save this in some fashion, but because it is adobe, there's just no way to relocate it, move it. So it will become part of the history of the reservoir as it melts into the reservoir when water comes in. There was just no way to save it. So you're not
going to tear it down. You're just going to let the reservoir come up and just kind of take it away.
Melt the adobe, yes. What's also interesting about this site is there's a prehistoric component. There's an Indian component here. There is an artesian spring on the site property. And so water is sort of a basic theme, and it's been a basic theme for our studies, human adaptation to an arid environment. And where usually there are Indian habitation sites, the non-native peoples came in and settled in the same location.
Yeah, they all knew they came to water.
That's exactly right.
So water was the reason the Indians were here how many thousands of years ago?
About 8,000 years ago.
8,000?
Yes.
It's the reason the Nicholson family built this wonderful little home here, because they had an artesian well here. And water is what we're going to see once again very shortly.
Very shortly. So there's the thread of water through the whole story.
Continuity. Boy, there is some equipment down here, Jay.
This is some amazing equipment. Some of it was designed just for this project.
Now let's show everybody where we are. There's the West Dam. We started this morning at the East Dam. We're outside of the reservoir now. The reservoir will be on the other side of the West Dam. And where we are now is a place that I didn't even know was going to be here until just now when you told me.
We're on the dry side of the West Dam, that's correct, about 5 miles from where we started this morning. And what we're looking at here, Huell, is a lot of activity going on to create not only an operational area here, but once we complete the environmental documentation, this will be part of an extensive recreation program out here at Eastside Reservoir Project.
Now, when you say recreation program, what do you mean? What's going to be out here for us to enjoy?
Well, the current plans, pending approval, include some lagoons, or a lagoon that will be on this end. There'll be another similar lagoon way back 5 miles back where we started this morning, and those would be for swimming and small boating activities and things like that. There'll be campgrounds here, there'll be greenbelt areas, and the entire reservoir project itself includes almost anything you could imagine in terms of recreation. Horseback riding, bicycling,
this whole
hiking.
area right here.
Well, this is just one small part of the total recreation package that we're looking at.
One
right
big
here.
part. This is a big part going on here.
Well, it's a big part while we're standing here, but if you look at the overall plan that includes both this end, the other end, plus the two sides, plus our own Skinner Reservoir, which is only a few miles south of here, you're looking at a very large recreation component for all of Californians and everyone to enjoy.
This whole area is going to be a brand new major recreation area for Southern California.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it.
Okay, now we're here to talk about the future. We're also here to talk about the past because, you know, we've been talking about archaeology, paleontology, human history, mammal history, and lo and behold, this developed as we were here today.
Well, we didn't plan on this as part of the itinerary today, but we got a call this morning while we were down at the visitor center, and lo and behold, they've uncovered some material similar to what you saw earlier today.
Well, let's go in here and take a look. Fellas, ladies, what did we find here today?
Well, this is this is a horse remnants. These are toe bones and leg bones.
Oh, there's a big bone right there.
Yeah, that's probably his one of his lower arm bones.
Now, who found this?
Oh, right here, Steve Kessler.
You found it?
Yes, sir.
Now, how did you find it?
Well, it wasn't easy. No, it's actually part of our job. We're cruising up and down these cuts all the time, and you just get to learn what bone looks like as opposed to say a rock or a tree branch or something.
So, are you a paleontologist?
A field paleontologist. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it means we go out and we do the collecting. We take them back to the museum, and then other people do the prep work and identify the bones.
Because we saw Big Max this morning.
Right.
You didn't find him, did you?
I didn't. A colleague of mine found him.
Okay, and you're naming everything. So, have you already named the horse?
Have we named the horse yet? No.
No names.
Now, what's going to happen to these bones right here?
Well, we will.
You've stopped. Construction has stopped, hasn't it?
Well, we're fortunate that the project is so large that when we run across a site like this, we can stop work at this site, but there's so much other work to be done, we can shift the work elsewhere. So it's not slowing us down.
Because it seems like every time you found a horse bone, you might be in trouble here. You'd be stopping all the time.
Well, again, fortunately, there's enough work to do here that we can move it from site to site when that happens.
So are you going to excavate this out?
Yes, we will. We'll pedestal it the rest of the way. We'll dig it out just like you see here in front of us all the way around. We'll coat all the bones that you see with a tissue paper. So pad the bone from plaster jacket. We'll make a bunch of burlap and plaster, and we'll coat the bone just like a doctor coats a bone if it's broken to set it up in an emergency room. We'll take it back to the museum, and we'll uncover it very carefully in the lab.
Now, when you find one horse, do you think there are others around here as well, or does it just kind of happen one at a time like this?
Generally, it happens one at a time. As a matter of fact, we can't really be sure that all the bones you see here are from one animal. Oftentimes, in one jacket, similar to the size of this, there'll be 2 or 3 different animals.
Wow.
That's something that we'll find when we get back to the lab and actually do a comparative study on the bones.
You know, when we started this, I thought we were here to do a program on the reservoir. It's ended up we've spent most of our time talking about old bones. But this is really fascinating stuff.
There's so much going on here that we could talk about 10 or 15 different subjects.
Yeah, this is great. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
You found the horse. What is the technical name for this ancient horse?
Equus.
Equus. What is it?
Occidentalis is the common name.
Okay, you're a field paleontologist as well?
Yes, I'm a field paleontologist as well, a colleague of Steve Kessler's and Seth Brody's.
And you're a field paleontologist?
That's right.
Well, good luck. Are you a field paleontologist?
Yes, I am.
Boy, we got a lot of paleontologists out here.
Well, we got a lot of paleontology to deal with, too.
Look at all this stuff going on. This is about an interesting a juxtaposition as you can get between the new and the old right here within just a few feet of each other.
There's thousands of years in just a couple of feet.
What?
There's probably 10 to 15,000 years in just a couple of feet separation.
Yeah. Just another wonder of the East Side Reservoir project out here, Jay.
It is incredible, the findings that we've had out here, and again, the fact that we're building this reservoir made it possible to discover these kinds of things for future generations to study.
Get to work. You got to be digging around this horse. You got to be putting it in plaster and then taking it out of here.
Absolutely. And we are going to be coated up to our armpits in plaster in no time at all.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for letting us know about this. This is great. They gave us a call and let us know that they had a find here today. Thanks. Good luck. Good luck. Stand over there by the horse. Let's get a shot of the 4 of you with that old horse. They've done a good job.
Thanks for waiting. We appreciate you holding up your work.
Uncovering the past and sharing it with all of us. Okay, now we've hooked up with Wendy Pitch, who is, well, you're kind of involved in a lot of the environmental concerns on a project this size.
That's right.
And we were driving down this road, coming down the hill here through all of this construction area. We're now actually outside the reservoir itself, but all of these fences, all this fenced-in area, what is this, Wendy?
Well, this is what we do when we find a Native American site or some other cultural resource site. We fence the area off, we set it aside and make sure that none of the construction equipment can get into it. And the reason we have it bright orange is so everyone can see it, no one will miss it, and it will stay there for the duration of construction.
Now, how do you find How do you set aside an area like this one? You got another one up here. How do you decide what's worth fencing off and what isn't?
Well, we have professional archaeologists who walk. When we picked this area for the reservoir site, we assigned a team of archaeologists, and they walk about 10 to 15 meters apart, and they just walk and cover every inch of the territory, and they look for arrowheads, they look for pieces of rock tools, anything that would indicate that there was human presence or occupation out here at one time.
Really?
So they look for anything on the ground that they can find, and then they set those areas aside, they identify boundaries, and they call that a site.
So they must have found something up here that was of particular interest.
Right. Most of the things that you'd see out here would be depressions in rocks where they were grinding stones into the boulders. You'd see little flakes of stone from where they were making tools. So it's not, it's very hard to find things out here, but that's the kind of thing they're looking for.
And we should mention that all of these will be preserved because we're actually outside the reservoir area now. This will all be part of the public lands where people will be coming to recreate and all of this, and these will all be saved.
That's correct.
This is all, you know, we keep stopping on the side of the road, we keep seeing things.
Well, when you're looking at a project where the reservoir itself is approximately 10 square miles, and then you got several miles on either side of that with sites like this, it's huge. I mean, we've used that word several times today, but it's very large. It's been here for a long, long time. Habitation has been here for a long, long time. It's an incredibly interesting area.
Yeah. You know, wonder if you just picked any area in California, if it would be this interesting, or is this just, I mean, if you really took an area and examined it this closely, do you think you'd find this amount of material almost anywhere you look?
I think in most of the areas of California that still look like this, you would.
Yeah.
Yeah. The advantage of this project is it is very large, and so we can put a lot of resources onto it, whereas with a smaller development, a housing project, they do a little bit at a time, they see a little bit at a time, and you'd never see a project like this.
Yeah. So just the scale of this.
It's very possible, Huell, that had we not come in here with this project, that all of this stuff would have ultimately been lost. Because as Wendy indicated, we have the resources to protect things like this, whereby, say, a farmer that's coming in and he's going to clear this area for farming or housing tract.
A developer, a small housing tract.
That's right. They don't have the resources to do it, and so a lot of this stuff goes ignored. So there's a lot of really good historical stuff here being saved.
Well, we keep having unscheduled stops, but Wendy and we've been joined by Tim. There, of course, is the dam right over there, but we were driving over to the dam and we saw all of this out here. What is this, Wendy?
Well, there's been farming going on in this valley since the late 1800s. And when we bought the property and we came in and did our surveys, we found all this equipment that the early farmers had just left at different stages of disrepair. And so we saved it and brought it over here where we've set it outside the construction area, and we'll preserve it in some way for interpretation for the future.
So this was just found over in the valley where the reservoir is going to be, because we're on the other side of the dam now, and it was just kind of sitting around?
These pieces were out in the fields in various locations, pretty much where they died, and they left them out there. They'd go after them for parts, and we can pretty well trace the history of harvesting just by the machinery that we've found here in the valley.
Do we know what any of this is? I'm sure there's some farmers watching who will know, but this is really neat old stuff. I mean, look at this. What was this?
These were pieces of equipment that they used to harvest hay.
So there was a lot of hay farming going on over here.
A lot of grass type farming, yes, and we have these horse-drawn types, and we also have early mechanized pieces that go back into the 20s and the 30s.
And right over here, look at this, Louis. I spotted this too. There's a little house kind of nestled back here in these eucalyptus trees. What's the story on that?
It's one of the early homesteads here, and that particular house will stay, and it'll be part of our interpretive program here at the reservoir, where we can show people what the early homesteads were like. And then there's also other Native American sites here. It's going to be quite exciting.
This is very interesting because you've got all this big equipment going by, all this old farm equipment over here. It's this wonderful juxtaposition of history all coming together.
That's right, and that's one of the things that makes this whole valley so unique, is that we've seen these kinds of things everywhere.
Yeah.
We have the Native American sites and the historical sites, and then the construction and the fossils. It's an environmental wonderland.
Well, you know, you all are getting tired of me because, Jay, I know you're getting tired of me because every time we see something, I say, stop, we got to stop and look at that.
I'll tell you what, this was supposed to be a 3-hour tour. It's turning into all day. Are you buying dinner?
Well, there's just a lot of neat stuff out here, and this is so visually interesting. And to think that it's just been sitting out in these fields all these years and now has been plucked and saved for posterity.
It really is interesting, and once again, I've got to say that had this project not come in here, this stuff would have been gone to the wind.
Yeah. Neat old stuff. Jay, you brought us here to this beautiful place, this wonderful, pristine place. For what reason?
Well, this is sort of an island of tranquility after the chaos at the Reservoir Project, but basically, one of the many things that Metropolitan did right in moving ahead with this project was to purchase land, about 13,000 acres here, for mitigation for any environmental damage that might be caused by the dam and the reservoir. So we have property here that is reserved in perpetuity for environmental purposes, and I'd like you to meet one of the people that's in charge of managing this whole area, as well as another one. Bill?
Howdy, Huell Hauser.
Oh.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes.
We might point out that we just are a few miles from the reservoir itself.
Yes, the reservoir is to our left, or my left, and we have another facility, an older facility, Lake Skinner, which Metropolitan Zone owns and operates, over to my right, and they're separated by about 6 miles or so. And this corridor of land connects those two facilities. They connect Eastside Reservoir Project and our Lake Skinner.
13,000 acres.
Yes, this is called the Southwestern Riverside County Multi-Species Reserve.
Well, tell us a little bit about it, because this is absolutely, we have some aerial views of it that show how beautiful it is. Now, what is this all about?
Well, this is a very special place that's been preserved in perpetuity for wildlife and for plants. And I think this is a very prime example of shrubland type habitats that are found in inland portion of Southern California.
And all of this is going to be preserved just exactly the way it is right now.
That's correct. Yes, it will be.
And what will happen to it? How will we be able to enjoy it?
We will have approximately 70 miles worth of trails through the reserve connecting Lake Skinner to the Eastside Reservoir Project. And that will be open to public access for recreational use, hiking, bicycles, equestrian use.
So people are going to be able to use this.
Absolutely.
People are going to be able to come out here and sit under this wonderful old oak tree and enjoy an afternoon in a very quiet and wonderful place.
That's correct.
Well, it's very quiet and wonderful here right now, and we're getting ready to go back to the dam, back to the reservoir. It's hard to leave something this beautiful.
Understand.
But it's going to be open very soon in the next couple of years for all of us to enjoy this wonderful space.
You bet.
And it's all part of the Eastside Reservoir Project. Let's just stand here very quietly and look at these beautiful oaks, these rolling hills, and this habitat for the kangaroo rats. Boy, if anything shows the enormity of this project, Jay, this is it right here. We're on top of the West Dam right now, looking out, and this whole area for almost 5 miles, almost as far as we can see, is going to be the reservoir.
That's correct. In fact, this truck that's passing in front of us here, believe it or not, is carrying 350 tons of rock for placement on the dam up here. But you're right, almost as far as the eye can see, you can just barely make out the East Dam where we started a little earlier today, and it's almost 5 miles, all water.
This will all be water. Howdy! Hey! How you doing? Well, Jay, we are ending up here in a very dramatic way, I might say, in front of What is this right over here?
Well, we're climbing out of what is called a forebay, Huel, and behind us in the background is the pumping plant that will pump water from this forebay into the reservoir, and it will also serve as the conduit to move water out of the reservoir when it's needed.
And this water is coming from?
The water comes from a canal just out of view over here, but it originates 242 miles to the east in the Colorado River, and also some 400 miles to the north in the State Water Project. So this actually would hold a blend of those two waters.
And this whole area here will be filled with water. There's the dam right there, and they've still got 70 more feet to build on top of that dam. And let me see if I've remembered what you've taught me. The water, when it goes through that pumping plant, is going to end up going into the reservoir through that big concrete tower we saw with 18 holes in it.
That's correct. You've got it.
Okay.
And then when the water's released,
it comes back through here.
Right.
And goes into our homes, into our factories, onto our farms, literally all over Southern California.
That's exactly right.
Well, I got to tell you, this was an eye-opener for me, and I know it was for our viewers as well. We started this with you disputing the fact when I said it that this was Southern California's best kept secret. I still claim it is, because I don't think many of us have yet to realize just how massive, how huge, and how important this project really is.
Well, and multifaceted too, as we found out. We have the recreation component and the paleontological component and the archaeological component, the water storage component. So many facets to this reservoir project. But let me tell you something, if it is a well-kept secret, we're not the ones that are keeping it a secret. We're very proud of this project, all phases of it, and we're just very pleased to have people come on out. We've got the visitor center is open. We stop there.
Well, yeah, it's open for tours to come through to the visitor center. We'll put a number on the screen where people can find out about it. They can come out and visit the site themselves. They can't go to all the places we went to today, but they can get a view of it, a feel of what this thing is. And of course, once it opens, it's here for all of us to enjoy.
That's exactly right. We kind of did a Huell Howser special today in terms of some of the special places we went where the general public can't go. But they can get to the visitor center. It's open 4 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then we have a terrific overlook. We won't have time to get there. You and I won't have time to get there, but we have a terrific overlook that's open to the public, and they can see the whole valley and all the work that's going on. And it's a terrific project, and they're more than welcome to come out here and unveil the secret.
And now for an update, because on a glorious California morning, the Diamond Valley Lake was officially dedicated. It was a day to remember, as thousands of people took part in the ceremonies on the banks of a rapidly filling lake. There were fireworks, a flyover of historic aircraft, and a symbolic dumping of water into the new lake by 2